All right, welcome to the weekly outlook. This is our first weekly outlook of the month, and therefore it's going to go public on YouTube. The remaining weeks, we do this every week, but only the first one of the month goes public. The rest of them are private to the premium Discord members. If you'd like to give the Discord a shot, the links are in the description below. We're going to talk about Bitcoin and what we can expect on a macro basis, and what we can try to picture here more midterm to long term. The short term price action sucks. And so we're not really trying to do that. Any sort of short-term trading is just kind of blah. But we want to know the big picture, right? What's Bitcoin going to do in the next 3 to 6 months? And that's what we're going to go over today. And we're also going to go over what can we expect as far as the bull market high. How far up are we going to go? So if you want to keep following along with those updates, hit the like button and subscribe. And then that way you can stay updated on what I'm seeing. But let's get started. So here we have this big Bitcoin chart, and there's a lot of information on here. Now I want to start by saying I do not trade based on horoscopes or moons or anything of that sort. And I want to preface by saying that because a lot of people saw the last time I posted this chart and started asking me why I'm a TA guy posting stuff about moons. There is a reason, and it's because this works. And it's the only thing that I ever associate with charting and lunar cycles. These are just total lunar eclipses that I've pointed out on the chart. And if you were with me back in the beginning of last year, when I noticed this pattern happening, I said, well, let's see what happens when we have our last lunar eclipse of the season and how far away from the low that we are when that happens. Well, it just so happened to be, crazy as it seems, that the day of that lunar eclipse marked our current low, right? Absolutely fascinating. I don't understand it. I don't know why it happens. There's no real rhyme or reason, but it seems to happen. So far, all of the highs of the bull markets, which are these green moons, are the first total lunar eclipse of the season. And all of the lows are marked by this orange moon, which is the last lunar eclipse of the season. Now, I'm not talking about partial lunar eclipses or the small ones. I'm talking about totals. And you don't get that many of them. There's seasons for them. And every 4 years, we get a season of total lunar eclipses. They just so happen to coincide with Bitcoin's bull market tops and bear market bottoms. Crazy. Now, I don't just use this. I kind of use it as like a little bit of something here to add. But I am a TA guy. I do Fibonacci and trend lines and all sorts of things to better my chances of being a better investor. I also teach about this. I do one-on-one sessions. I have a Discord. I have trading bots that I've pre-programmed to trade the way that I do. And so far, we're doing okay. We're doing really great in the Discord. And this is what I expect to see. So here we see our peaks after the halvings, right? And so these orange vertical lines you see are all of our Bitcoin halving dates. The white dotted lines are the last lunar eclipse date, right? And so these are the exact days. And you can go and Google this yourself and put your little moon logos on there, and just to verify that I'm being correct about this. And I think you'll be fascinated as well. But also, the white flags mark the bear market bottoms, right? And so that's just what these are. Now, if you were in the Discord or following me on Twitter, and you can go back and see these, I did point out that we would see the bear market bottom sometime between November and February of last year. And that's exactly what we got. And I figured that out based on the average time between the halving and the low, the previous bear market low. And that's what these are here. So, for example, this orange line here is the halving, and our low from the previous bear market happened 541 days afterwards, right? Was the halving. And so here, our next Bitcoin halving is 522 days after this current low. And so this is why I think that the low is in. I don't think that we're going to make a new low. So what does that mean? Well, that means we want to be buying all the dips, right? We want to be buying all the dips that we find on Bitcoin. Now, that could be anywhere from 18K, 17K, all the way to 24K, which is what we're currently looking for right now, is 24K Bitcoin. We are kind of curving down here, you can see that, and I do think the 24K will hit. If we look at this chart, this is why, right? So we have our 100-day moving average up here on the weekly and our 50 moving average on the weekly down here, and it coincides with the 382, which is right at 24,164. And so that's kind of the target that I have right now. To the upside, we can't be bullish until we break that 100 moving average, which is currently sitting at 3687. It's a wide gap, right? So what do you do in between here? You do nothing. You do absolutely nothing, and you just wait. Because if we come down and break this moving average, well, then these are our two places to come down below, 22K, and then here's the CME gap right around the 20K mark. Here's your CME chart, and the CME, for anyone who doesn't know, is the futures chart, and it only trades Monday through Friday. Saturday and Sunday it doesn't trade, and so what can happen is you can get gaps in the chart like this. And this is simply just made because on Friday it closed here. Over the weekend we had a move up, and it opened way up here. 90% of these gaps like to fill. Now that doesn't mean that this gap will fill, it just means that the probabilities of it filling are high. There are gaps in the chart all the way down to 9,000 and 11,000 that never filled, and they most likely will never fill. Those are your 10%. So it could be that this is part of the 10% and it doesn't fill, and we don't break here. But you can see how much space there is in between here and here if 25K breaks, right? And so this is where we want to be careful, and we don't want to see this as a fear opportunity. We want to see this as a buying opportunity, right? Because we're getting into that stage where if we zoom in here, Bitcoin's getting very close to the bottom of this channel, and whenever it touches that channel, that's where you want to be buying this, right? If we come all the way back, we never even got a touch on the last bear market, but here we did, and then back here you can see it's riding those lines, and it comes off of this top, right? And so this is kind of our channel. We want to sell when we get out of the top of the channel. Sell when you get out of the top of the channel. Now let's say we want to figure out where we're going, right? Where's the bull market going to take us? Well, March 13th is that first lunar eclipse, and it just so happens to be right around the same day as the mid band here, like the mid channel, and the 1.618. So if I just take my fibs and draw from my top to my bottom, you can see right where this 1.618 is. Now, why do we aim for the 1.618? Because this is typically where the bull market goes, right? At least to there. I can go back and measure any one of these previous cycles just from the top to the bottom and see that we at least get to the 1.618. This was our exact top of the previous bull market, right? So that is where we're going to be aiming for, and it just so happens to coincide with that moon phase, this top and the mid of the channel. And so this is where we're going to be aiming for, is this box. All right, that box anywhere from a little bit over 100K to about 173K. We're going to be dollar cost averaging out of Bitcoin during this time, and this is going to be in between November of 2024 and May of 2025. This is our selling point. So you can go ahead and mark that in your calendars. That's what we're going to be doing, and I hope to see you all around when that happens. It's going to be a great day. Okay, so let's get off of this crazy chart, and if anybody wants to take a picture of this, don't worry, I'm going to post it in the charts channel in the Discord. Let's move on to Bitcoin dominance. So Bitcoin dominance has been riding this uptrend all year long, and we've been sitting here testing this trend line for 3 weeks in a row. I don't know if it's going to break. If it does, it doesn't really concern me too much, other than maybe alts make a move up or everything just tumbles. Who knows? This can come down while stablecoin dominance goes up. And so we're going to talk about stablecoin dominance next, after we talk about Ethereum. Ethereum dominance is continually trending down. It did not hold this support at the 0.68 that I was thinking it might, and we are now heading down into this big area down below. This is not great. Our MACD is turning bearish. Our RSI is turning bearish. This is a weekly chart. Everything about this is bearish. I'm not excited about Ethereum right now. Let's look at USDT dominance now. Okay, so this is a big bullish pennant formation. This is most likely going to come up here and test this same resistance again at the 8.5% mark. This is just USDT dominance. It's not including all stablecoins. I really just like using USDT dominance for the most part. I don't try to get complicated and add all USDC and all these other ones in. This is the one that's used the most, and it's going to give you the most information. But This has been trying to break for several weeks, and I do think it will, and make a move up to test that resistance. Now, at that point, this starts to become more like an ascending triangle should that happen. We would then get rid of this line, and you can see that this is our top line, and here's our angled line, and this is an ascending triangle, which is a bullish pattern. Now, that's not a big deal. It just means that stablecoin dominance is trending upward, right? And this is what we want to see overall anyway if we want more people in the market. It just means that more market participants are entering the market, and that's good. But in the short term, when this goes up, Bitcoin and crypto go down. And so this is what we use often to determine our shorter term and midterm positions. Longer term, this is a good, healthy looking chart for crypto altogether, because people aren't leaving crypto in this market coming down, right? Who's got their mic on? Okay. So let's move to the dollar. The dollar broke its downtrend. If you watched the video a few weeks ago, you would see we were testing this, and I was starting to think maybe we were going to break. The EMAs are now bullish on the weekly for the dollar, and this means that the dollar is now bullish. And when the dollar is bullish, we have to be careful in equities and in Bitcoin. This means that people are moving their money into the dollar and not into risk assets. So this could spell trouble for equities. We could get a move down this week because the 8 EMA is very close to this trend, and so we could get another trend test, right? And you can see how big this wick was from last week. Moved all the way back up to our 382, which was the point I thought we would see if the trend broke, and that's exactly what happened. So now if this breaks, we're just going to go level by level, and that's where we'll take the dollar. If we break this 105.13 mark, there's a lot of space here, right? And so this could wreak some havoc on the markets. Looking at the S&P 500, so I got this one wrong, and I thought we would see lower, right? And we got a little double bottom bounce, moving back up, but I can't really tell if it's actually breaking that trend line or not. If I go to the weekly, you can see it's just retested. So this orange line, by the way, is our main trend for the whole year. And I know I got a lot of lines here. Let me get rid of some. But this is our main uptrend for the year. You can see it broke, and now we're retesting the underside. And this is typically where I like to short things because I want to grab that retest. I want to grab the bearish retest to short things. So I think we could see some downside here still. And we would need to break the 45.57 level in order to get bullish again. Why do I say that? Because this is our support that was broken, and now we're coming back up to retest it. That's this yellow line that you see right here. So 45.57 to become bullish, and to become super bearish again, break the 44.77 mark. While we trade in between here, I don't really want to mess with it. Because now I have my 2 points that are going to actually give me some definitive chart information, and these are the 2 places I'm going to be looking. All right, NASDAQ kind of looks like the same thing, right? Here's our yearly uptrend. The orange line starts all the way back in, like, I don't know, October when we found the bottom. And now we're kind of doing the same thing. We're breaking that down, or coming back up, retesting the bearish retest, and now we could be heading back down. The daily is bullish again, so at minimum I expect that 8 EMA to get hit. Longer term, if this doesn't break back over, then this is going to be sort of just starting a downtrend, right? And we'll see how far it takes us. I think if we do start the downtrend, we'll definitely still see these gaps on ES and the NASDAQ respectively, which the gap is here at 14,526. And for ES, it is down here at 43.05. You can see this big gap right here. All right, so let's move to the Bitcoin NASDAQ chart. So if you saw this chart a couple weeks ago, we were about here, and I said, this is helping me not FOMO crypto, even if we got a little bounce, which we did get a little bounce, right? And it wasn't even really a little bounce. It was kind of an overwhelming bounce that completely sold back off. And I wasn't FOMOing Bitcoin at that point because this chart was telling me that we're still in a downtrend when we're comparing it to the NASDAQ. And I said, we're probably going to hit this 382. And now we're getting very close to that. So now what I want to do is I want to see what happens when we hit this 382. I want to see if we get a big reaction out of Bitcoin while QQQ or the NASDAQ stays flat or starts coming down while Bitcoin's going up. If I see those two things kind of flip or switch, that could be a good sign, and we might want to capitalize on that. Let's see the total chart. So you can see our uptrend is broken. This looks like a head and shoulders pattern, even though it's on an angle. It's still the same pattern, and this looks like it's heavy. I do think that we will see this 0.5 at the very least, should this break. And you can see our weekly EMAs are bearish. You can see we also got a retest, which was that big move we had, and now we're heading back down. This is typically just a liquidity hunt in order to go find lower. This is where I would ultimately like to buy Bitcoin again, or maybe Ethereum back, because I did sell all of my Ethereum, only holding on to Bitcoin at the moment. And then when total gets down into this zone here, this is going to be like super buy zone for me, and where I want to probably try to capture the most that I can at that time. If we look at the Bitcoin futures chart, this is my buy zone down here in the 20K area, which is that gap that I was talking about. So in order to be bullish again, we need to get over 28.8, and if 25.2 breaks, then we're going to see 24, 22, and then possibly 20. If we look at the spot chart, I showed you this briefly before, but same concept. We break 25K, we'll most likely see 24, and this is a big spot with this 50 moving average on the weekly, and we'll want to see if that holds or not. You can see we had some resistance here and then a big move up, right? And so in order to break that, we're going to need a big move down. And so we could see that big move down right to 22K at some point. You can see the retest of these EMAs and the 200 again on the weekly, right? They're all bunched up in the same spot. So, I mean, at the end of the day, if this whole zone here can't break, which is in between 27K and I would say 27.4, this is going to be a big resistance. Even if we do get another little bounce this week, we want to clear 27.4, like the bare minimum, in order to start talking about some shorter term bullishness. If we look at the Ethereum CME chart, kind of the same deal here. Now, this is where I'm a little leery on buying the gap on Ethereum, and here's why. Because if we take Ethereum to the gap, even if it's the bottom of the gap, that's 11.29% down from where we are now. If we look at the Bitcoin and we take it to the gap, that's 20%, right? And this Ethereum Bitcoin chart is not telling me that Ethereum is going to gain on Bitcoin right now. If anything, it's telling me the opposite. So if Bitcoin sells off to 20K, Ethereum, I can't see Ethereum just stopping at that gap. I think it would have to go further. And so that's why I'm going to be more careful on buying Ethereum, and it's going to be a little easier to buy Bitcoin if it hits that gap, if that makes sense. I would want to wait and see what Ethereum does before trying to catch a knife. Bitcoin, I'm okay catching the knife on because I'm long-term on it. But by all means, do not try to catch this knife if you're just trying to short-term trade it. You might catch a bounce, like you most likely would if it hit 20K, but just try to get in and out quickly if you're going to do that, or just be long-term on it. It's much easier. All right, so looking at that Ethereum Bitcoin chart, by the way, this is just a big downtrend. We're in between the 0.618 and the 0.5 here, and these two levels are what determines whether or not we're short-term bullish or going to continue bearishness or not. This doesn't look good, and it has a lot of room to fall when we compare ETH to Bitcoin. So be careful with ETH for the time being. I do think it'll be okay for the long term. If we look at the monthly chart, what do we see? We see the EMAs curling down. We see this big long trend line breaking, right? So not a good sign. So far we've tested the 382 and rejected the 236 on the way back up. And you can also see that this is our monthly pivot, right? And you can see this is where we rejected right around that 2K mark. So in order to really be bullish on Ethereum, again, we need to break 2K, and that's quite a ways away. That's like 25% from here. So we could come down and retest the trend here that we broke that never actually retested the downtrend. So maybe that's where we come, which would bring us close to the previous lows again. Basically anything sub 1,000 on Ethereum, I'm going to really love snatching up if we see it. I don't know if we will, but if we do, definitely going to be buying that. All right, so I think I've covered everything. If anybody has any questions or chart requests, feel free to start dropping them in the chat and I will go over them. As far as the recording on the video, I'm going to stop it before we get into that portion of the call, but I just want to let you know that the links are in the description for the Discord. If you'd like to keep updated on all these charts, I do them daily. I post charts every 12 hours, basically, just to update you on all the majors. And if anybody ever has a question about a chart, I'm pretty quick to respond. I also post my high confidence trades and a lot of TA resources to help you learn how to chart yourself. And my goal is to help you become a better investor. I don't try to shill anything crazy. I'm not like a rich person. I'm just a guy trying to build wealth, which is like a lot of you. So I think you can relate. All right, well, thank you for watching, and please hit subscribe and like on those videos, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.